think I'm spooky?
Be afraid. Be very afraid. What have you done to his eyes?
Good evening and welcome to Soft and Spooky. For today's video, we will be cloudy with a chance of horror. In this video, I'm going to be going over a forecast of all of the horror movies expected in 2025, and if I'm being honest, there are quite a few on here that I'm very excited about, and I figure you might have some too. So without further ado, let's sink our teeth in. Okay, first up we have Wolfman, and this one, it's on my top of my list, and it's super early in the year, so I'm very excited about it. This one centers around this family that is attacked by this unseen animal, and so they seclude themselves in this remote farmhouse, but as they're there, the father begins to undergo these changes. I think one of the biggest pulls of this one for me is that the film is directed by Leigh Whannell, who has also directed Saw movies. I think this is like the second time I've done this, but Whannell did not direct Saw. He wrote it. I don't know why I always think that he directed it, but he didn't. As well as one of my favorites from 2020, The Invisible Man. This is yet another one of the classic Universal monsters that Whannell has adapted into a remake, and I was super impressed with The Invisible Man, so I'm really excited to see what he does with this. Especially too after watching the trailer with like the cinematography and the direction of it, I think I'm going to be very pleased. I mean, if anything, even if I don't like the plot, it looks pretty. So Wolfman will be releasing on January 17th, and I will absolutely have my butt in theaters. I'm super stoked. Closing out January, we have Companion. This is a psychological thriller that is produced actually by the same producer for Barbarian, which I love, and it features the directorial debut of Drew Hancock, who also wrote the film. This one doesn't have a plot synopsis on Wikipedia or IMDb, which I thought was kind of weird because like they already have a trailer for it, but they don't have a synopsis. I did find a little blurb when I was Googling the movie, and it says, a billionaire's death sets off a chain of events for Iris and her friends during a weekend trip to his lakeside estate. I can kind of see like maybe little aspects of that in the trailer, but something gives me the impression that this movie is going to be a lot deeper, like a lot more complex than you expect, and I think it's going to be a very effed up movie. This film stars Jack Quaid from The Boys, as well as Harvey Guillen from What We Do in the Shadows. I love that show. And we also have Sophie Thatcher. I think I'm intrigued by this, but I might kind of hesitate to go see it right away. I might kind of put the feelers out on what audiences feel about this movie before I spend the money to go see it. But yeah, this one is going to be coming out on January 31st. We have a fun little slasher that's going to be coming out in February. It is called Heart Eyes. This one's got a pretty simple plot, I think. Basically, we have the Heart Eyes killer that returns every Valentine's Day to slaughter lovers. This bad boy is going to be gory, I can tell you that. And I almost, from watching the trailer, I kind of feel like the killer might be a little bit funny or like a little bit silly. It's the way he like slams the girl's head over the guy that has like the knife in his mouth, and I don't know, it looked funny to me. I think there were a couple shots that looked pretty good to me, like that very opening shot of the trailer with the girl running. I think that just looks very nice, good composition or something. This one is set to release on February 7th. Buddy. Hey, buddy, you're dreaming. Hey. This film is releasing on February 7th, which I actually think is kind of a missed opportunity just because why not put it on Valentine's Day? Valentine's Day is a Friday too, so I don't know. But yeah, I think this one will be fun. Next up, we have The Monkey, which is a Stephen King short story adaptation, and it is being written and directed by Osgood Perkins. If you recognize that name, one, his dad is Anthony Perkins, who portrayed Norman Bates in Psycho, but also Osgood Perkins directed Longlegs earlier this year, and I actually made a video on it definitely check it out. But even though I did have some issues with that film, I do feel like I wanted to see more because I felt as though the direction as well as the cinematographer for that film, they worked really well together, and I wanted to see Osgood Perkins flex a little bit more. And I think that this film is going to give him the opportunity. I was scoping out the cinematographer because I wanted to see if it was the same one from Longlegs, but it's not. This time he hired on Nico Aguilar, and I was looking at his IMDb, crazy long history of doing cinematography, very extensive resume. But one of the ones that kind of interested me is that he did the music video for 21 Pilots, their live stream concert during the pandemic. And I thought that was so cool. I don't know. I just love how connectivity everywhere. It's just kind of cool. Anyway, this film centers around two twin brothers named Bill and Hal, and they discover in their father's attic his old toy monkey. But after discovering that, there is a series of very gruesome murders. From the trailers, this definitely gives me the feel that it's going to have quite a bit of dark humor in it. It looks kind of funny in some scenes. And it stars Theo James, who is known for the Divergent series, White Lotus as well. But if I'm being honest, I am a lot more excited to see that Elijah Wood is on this cast. And just something about his face, and I don't know, I love that man. There's something so interesting about him, and I'm excited to see him in more. This is set to come out on February. I think genuinely this might be one of my more anticipated films of the year, and this is going to be coming out February 21st. Heading into March, we are going to be seeing Sinners. This one is so funny because it's another set of twins, and I think this happened the last time that I did my horror movie forecast, where there were certain elements that were similar in movies releasing, and I was just like, what's going on here? Everybody's kind of has the same wavelength or something. This one I think is going to be a really interesting and unique film this year because it is a thriller that stars Michael B. Jordan as the twins, and they return home to start anew, to start fresh. But when they return home, there's a greater evil lurking there. The director of this film is Ryan Coogler, who also directed Black Panther and Creed. And it has been described about this one that it is a period genre vampire film. And I don't know, man, from looking at the trailer, I thought it was going to be like people making deals with the devil and like Sinners as the title. I really thought that it was going to be maybe like the town overrun with demons, but I think we're going to get a vampire film, and I'm so excited! This film also stars Haley Steinfeld from Edge of 17, as well as a personal fave of mine, Delroy Lindo. He's just so cool. I mean, he's got such a long list of films that he's been in, and I hate, no, I don't hate it, but I think it's funny that the main thing that I recognize him from is he played the detective in Gone in 60 Seconds that stars Nick Cage.
My name's Roger. Sir, may I be of some help?
That's funny. My name's Roger. Two Rogers don't make a right.
I unironically and fully admit with my whole heart, I love that movie. I also wanted to say that I find it really refreshing that this trailer did not reveal too much, and it really sparks the interest and curiosity in filmgoers that I've kind of been missing in trailers. So yeah, this is going to be coming out March 7th. Oh boy, I think a lot of people are stoked for this one, especially just reading comments and seeing Instagram posts, but we are getting another installment of the 28 Days Later franchise, and we are getting 28 years later. What's so crazy too is when I was gathering the information for this video, they actually hadn't released a trailer, but this video has been taking me a really long time to try and find time to film. They just released a trailer 2 days ago, so now I can include it. And yeah, so just remember, kids, always procrastinate. It never goes wrong. This film has Cillian Murphy returning, as well as Ralph Fiennes and Aaron Taylor Johnson. Hubba hubba. The plot synopsis of this one hasn't been released, or maybe while I'm editing, I'll get the plot synopsis too. But essentially, what I assume is that this is a continuation of the previous two movies, and it's following this virus outbreak that is incurable and basically turns people into zombies. And we are going from that first essence of the outbreak, and we are going 28 years after it. I personally have actually never seen any of these films, but I have heard so many good things about the zombie franchise, and I think a lot of fans are going to be really stoked when it comes out on June 20th. The following week, we are going to be seeing the sequel to Megan, and it is called Megan 2.0. For this one also, the plot hasn't been released quite yet, but I assume it's also a continuation of the story from the first film, where an AI doll that's meant to be a companion to children, it goes rogue. I'll admit, I kind of feel as though I didn't really need to see a sequel to this. I think that the first one was pretty decent, but it's not something that I need to see this character more. I need to see, this is a new horror villain. I don't think that it really impacted me that much. But what does get me excited is that I was scoping out the cast. A lot of the cast is returning from the first film, but there's a new person added, and that is Jermaine Clement. You may recognize him from the movie version of What We Do in the Shadows, but I personally recognize him from old school, back in the day, Flight of the Conchords.
It's 1972 David Bowie from the Ziggy Stardust tour.
Wow, you look a lot like Jermaine.
No, I'm David Bowie.
This man is a treasure, and I think he is so funny. He has great comedic delivery. So honestly, if the ratings are good, and I know that he is going to be a pretty big focal point, I am seeing this movie. So this one is going to be coming out on June 27th. Next up, we have Thread, excuse me, I'm a boy. Next up, we have Thread, an Insidious tale, and it has Mandy Moore and Kumail Nanjiani in a horror movie. I'm very intrigued by this. So this is going to be the 6th installment of the Insidious franchise, which, where have I been? I didn't realize there were already 5. But this one kind of seems a little bit different. It seems to be more of an offshoot project. The plot synopsis of this one is about a couple that use a spell to go back in time to prevent their daughter's tragic death. I do think that with us going back in time, I think there are going to be at least a few Easter eggs of the other films or other characters, and I think it's going to be a cool project, and I don't know. I like that they're kind of trying to switch it up a little bit. But yeah, this one is going to release capping out the end of the summer at August 29th. In a similar vein, we are going to be seeing another installment in the Conjuring series called The Last Rites. This one is a little bit different though, because it is apparently the 4th and final installment of the Conjuring series. Makes me kind of sad, man. I love Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga's chemistry. They're so good together. Although, I'm putting on my psychic cap, okay? I'm looking into my crystal ball. I don't think we're done with these characters. I think that this film we're gonna love as fans. We're gonna love it, and it's gonna be a great send-off. And then we'll continue on with probably some sort of spin-off movies or whatever. And we'll go down a couple years down the line. And then they're going to do a cameo of Ed and Lorraine Warren, which is Patrick and Vera. And I think they're going to gauge people's interests and see how excited people get. And then they're going to bring them back one more time. I'm calling it. So yeah, this last installment is going to be coming out on September 5th. Oh, also, there was no plot for this one. Just thought I'd say that. Another one to look out for is Saw 11. From gauging the ratings as well as how people talk about the 10th installment of the Saw series, I think a lot of people are going to be excited about the 11th one, especially because the same director is going to be returning for it. These films have a very complicated lore, but essentially there is the villain, Jigsaw, who is played by Tobin Bell, and he punishes people that have either done horribly awful things or they just don't value life as much as they should, and he wants to teach them a lesson. That's like way oversimplifying it. What is nice is that apparently Tobin Bell has confirmed that he will be reprising his role in this one. So unfortunately, at the time of making this video, I don't know what the plot's about, but yeah, I think Saw fans are gonna be hyped. So it is coming out September 26th. With the success of the recent release The Substance, as well as previous sci-fi horror like Alien, I am honestly chomping at the bit for more sci-fi horror. That's why I'm super stoked for this next one. It is called The Bride, and it is directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal, which makes her third writing and directing credit. It stars her brother, Jake Gyllenhaal, who I think might be Frankenstein. We also have Christian Bale, Peter Sarsgaard, Penelope Cruz. It seems like a pretty stacked cast, and I think that this one's gonna be really cool. The premise around this one is kind of that classic tale of Frankenstein seeking to make a companion in the same way that he created the monster, and things go awry. What's interesting is when I looked at the plot synopsis for this, it had a very interesting quote. It said, her creation inspires romance, police interest, and radical social change. That last one's very intriguing. I'm kind of curious to see where they're going with this one. This one will also be coming out the same date as Saw 11 on September 26th. So, double feature maybe? Let's go, baby, let's go! We're getting Black Phone 2, and I can't believe that it took me so long to watch the first one. In the first film, that was an adaptation of the novel by Joe Hill, who is Stephen King's son, and so I'm kind of curious to see how they're continuing this story. I did see from the IMDb page that we are bringing back the villain played by Ethan Hawke, as well as Finney, played by Mason Thames, and then Gwen, played by Madeline McGraw. Madeline McGraw. I enforce the law. In all seriousness though, Madeline McGraw was so fantastic in that first film. Her acting choices were stunning for a child actor. Again, the plot has not been released. You guys are killing me here. I think it's gonna be a follow-up. So in the first film, it centered around this series of kidnappings, and our main character, Finney, gets kidnapped by the grabber, and he gets help from a very unlikely source. And that's all I'll say about it, because I really recommend watching it if you haven't already. But I'm kind of calling it now. I think that this next film, it's going to be the origin story of the grabber, how he came to be and where this all began, and taking it back to the roots. Feel it in my plums. That's got to be it. But yeah, the sequel to this will be coming out on October 17th, just in time for spooky season. Last but not least, on December 5th, FNAF fans are going to be stoked because we are getting a sequel to Five Nights at Freddy's. I think that this film is going to pop off just like the first one that was so successful. For reference, they had a budget of $20 million to film the movie, and they made, in the box office worldwide, $297 million. So I think this one's gonna do well. But yeah, this was based off of a video game where you're hired to be the nighttime security guard of this. Essentially, it's kind of like an animatronic, like Chuck E. Cheese, where these animatronics seem to come to life and they're murderous, and it's at night and it's scary. But yeah, so there's gonna be a continuation of it. And despite I guess critics didn't really enjoy it, but I think a lot of audiences did, and fans of the game as well as fans of the lore were super into it. So I think this one is going to be really exciting for a lot of people, and it is coming out December 5th. Moving on to our other section, we do have some films that are projected to be released in 2025, but we just don't have any specified dates yet, but I really wanted to mention them. So yeah, let's get into it. First up, we have Dracula, A Love Tale. The most recognizable name that I saw attached to the project is Christoph Waltz, and that man is just a powerhouse. He is so charismatic, and he demands the attention in the scene that he's in. And I think he would be a really mesmerizing Dracula. So I really hope he's Dracula. This one's kind of the classic Dracula tale where it's 15th century, he's a prince, and he renounces God and becomes a vampire after his wife's untimely death. And centuries later, he ends up seeing a woman that very closely resembles her. So yeah, I think that this one's going to be pretty interesting, and I love Christoph Waltz, so go see it. This is so funny because I just covered this movie on the channel, but we are going to be getting a sequel of Thanksgiving, and it's called Thanksgiving 2. The first one is just gory, fun, a little bit silly, and I definitely think that Eli Roth is going to probably amp up for the next one, and I'm already getting a little bit of throw up in my mouth. The next one, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little frustrated. We are getting The Strangers Chapter 2. It's pretty telling, like the Rotten Tomatoes score of Chapter 1. People pretty much hated that one. I think that this should probably be the last continuation of the Strangers franchise. I don't even know why it became a franchise, because the first one, I don't know. I don't think we needed more. Yeah, I think the well is kind of running a little bit dry, and so maybe this will be the last. This trailer also gives me the feeling that's like it's just gonna bonk you over the head. Like there's gonna be no subtlety to anything, and you're gonna get these like over dramatic, like, oh my gosh, the writer thinks that it's gonna be so impactful, and then you just get this.
Is Tamara here?
Last but not least, we have Frankenstein, that is directed by Guillermo del Toro. This movie stars Mia Goth from like X and Maxine and those Ty West movies, as well as Christoph Waltz, which like, damn, he's been a busy boy with these classic monster movies. This film is also going to have Oscar Isaac and Jacob Elordi as the monster, which I think is a very interesting choice because I don't really know much about him, but I hesitate. He's kind of like, he plays the pretty boy. Like, he's a handsome boy. And so to see him as the monster, like, that might be kind of cool. I gotta say, I'm like super excited for all of these classic monster movies that are supposed to be coming out in 2025. Like, I don't know what deals people made. Like, they were like, okay, we're gonna make classic horror monster movies, and I'm here for it. And I don't know, like, I think it would be really cool to see just like a lot of merch coming out. And like I saw for the Nosferatu screenings, they're going to have this popcorn bucket that's shaped like a coffin. And I love that. More of that. Like I try not to be a consumer and like, you know, get into all this like possessions and stuff, but the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Okay. And sometimes I just want spooky stuff. But yeah, that just about does it for the horror movie forecast for 2025. Are there any that you're absolutely sure you're going to see in theaters? Let me know in the comments below. I want to know what's like worth it to you all. While you're there, feel free to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. It helps my channel and the algorithm, as well as if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. I am so close. Like, look at this. I am so close to getting 1,000 subscribers, and I think that's a big milestone. And wow, it would be amazing to hit that like as soon as possible. So if you can help me out, I'd really appreciate it. And I know a lot of my viewers, I like was scoping out the analytics. A lot of the viewers are not subscribed, so please help me. But yeah, I hope you all are having a fantastic year and you're excited for all of these movies coming out, and I will see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stay soft and spooky. Bye.